Aloha, everyone. I'm so happy to see you and have the opportunity to practice together. Today's class emerged as I was working with some tightness in my body, and it was really fun because I discovered I wanted to, go after it, and that doesn't work, right? And so instead, I had to be really fluid. And so the sequence should feel really good and melty. By the end, we'll be strong and ready for our peak balancing sequence. So with that, let's begin. Am I mirrored? No. Okay. So turn to your right and extend your legs and make your way onto your back. You won't need the blocks right away, so you can put them behind your head so they're not in the way when we roll around a little bit. And then if you're parallel to me, which is always easiest but not always possible, the left side of your body should be reaching towards the screen. And then recline, bend the knees, soles of feet to earth. Close the eyes if that feels comfortable, and take some wiggles. Just starting to feel the texture underneath you, letting the body get heavy. Notice the shape of the spine and see if you can create a little extra length by walking the sits bones gently away from the skull, tucking the chin. And then if it's comfortable, you can allow the knees to knock in just so the legs don't have to do any work and you can relax here. And we'll start by connecting with our breath flow. And so close the mouth and breathe through the nose. And let the breath be completely natural. And notice what that means for you. Notice where you tend to breathe, if it's the chest, in the belly. And see if by relaxing more deeply, you're able to breathe more fully. And things that help me relax and breathe fully are bringing my awareness to the back of the body, feeling the back of the rib cage expand towards the earth, almost like a spreading out, a pooling of the rib cage all the way down to the bottom rib, the low back. One of the secrets to breathing fully and naturally is allowing the exhale to be complete. And my favorite way to do this is to visualize the sun, the center of the heart, and as you exhale, imagine that radiant sun is growing brighter and brighter. You don't even have to think about the inhale. It'll naturally come. It'll run its course. And then bring all your focus to the exhale and that visualization, and notice how that idea of brightening at the heart might encourage you to stay with the exhale a little longer, allowing it to run its full course, emptying out completely with no rush. And then the inhale just naturally comes to you. And just explore that for several more repetitions at your own pace. might notice here, and I invite you to do so without judgment, notice that it might feel really enjoyable, or maybe not. Maybe there's agitation with that slowing down of the exhale, and that's totally natural. So be kind, be compassionate with yourself. Hi, Mandy. Hi, Mom. Thanks for joining. We're just focusing on the breath in a comfortable reclined position. Letting the exhale be natural yet full. And now we'll start to wake up the deep core a little bit. You're welcome to keep the eyes closed, or you can open them. If the knees are knocked in, point them up towards the sky, and take a couple of pelvic tilts, letting the pelvis tip forward, arching the low back, and then letting the pelvis tip back so the low back flattens. And then each of those actions, let it get smaller and smaller until you find the place where the spine feels quite long. It's not flat, it's not overarched, and this place, at least for me, takes core support to maintain. So when you find it, you might notice a little brightness at the core, and let's try to keep that as we add on some movement. Hi, Jaya. Oh, what a delight to practice with you. Welcome. And so from our neutral pelvis, neutral spine, bring your awareness down to the soles of the feet. They're not actually going to lift, but play with just taking the weight out of the right foot. And notice the musculature required to do this. It's a lot more than you might expect. And then release that action. Let's stay on the right side and take a few of these unweights of the right foot, just starting to wire in the deep core. And this really shows us that less is more. The deepest strength comes from this micro movement. Start to sync it with the breath, exhaling as the foot unweights, and then inhaling to set it back down. Let's switch sides. And we'll take a couple more on the other side. And then release that foot down. Bring the soles of the feet together and allow the knees to gently open into a butterfly position, controlling the descent of the knees. And then reverse that so the knees come back, soles of the feet come to the earth. And I've been enjoying adding opposite arm to the foot unweights, and for me, it feels a lot easier. So let's explore that. Take one unweight of the right foot, and then at the same time that the foot stays lifted, unweight the left arm. Release both at the same time, and then use your exhale to unweight arm and leg together, and notice the pathway from the right hip to the left shoulder. Take a couple of these and notice if it feels like you can use more of your deep core to support that unweighting of the right foot. And if it doesn't feel easier, that's okay. It means that that pathway is being built neurologically, and this is the way to build it. So be patient, be compassionate. Try the other side. So first unweight the left leg, and then unweight the right arm. Release both at the same time, and then exhale to unweight both simultaneously. And once you've got the hang of it, alternate sides. And if you want to start allowing the foot to lift a little higher because you feel that urge as the strength builds in the body, you're welcome to try that. And then pause, and this is kind of fun, maintaining this neutral pelvis and neutral spine with your awakened deep core. Play with extending the legs as if you were in Tadasana. Flex the feet, and notice the gentle effort required to support your neutral pelvis here. It's so gentle, yet so important. Aloha, Dana with a new last name. Congratulations. Yay. We'll just take a couple of breaths here, helping pattern this neutral position into the body. And then relax completely. It's okay if the pelvis tilts a little bit, that's just fine. You can hit play on the first musical track if you're following along, and then just make sure the track is set to loop. And we'll start to enjoy some rolling. So see if you can refine that neutral position, which takes not a crunching action, but just that deep brightening and corseting around the center of the body. Then start to snow angel the arms overhead, which is extra fun on a blanket. You might feel that nice fiber, the massage against the skin. And then let the feet come a little wider, hands come a little wider, so you're more of an X shape. And breathe naturally here, noticing how the exhale is a unifying force between the limbs and the core. Take a few breaths to notice that. And then if you're just joining, we have it so the left side of the body is towards the screen, so you might need to flip around, that's fine. We'll be rolling towards the left side into a fetal position. And I want you to notice how from this X shape, it'd be quite hard to roll onto the left side. And what's going to make it easier is bringing everything towards the center of the body. So start to bend the knees and elbows as you simultaneously roll onto the side, finding that path of least resistance. Pause in the fetal position and breathe into the back body, noticing a sense of spaciousness as you inhale, even though this is a contracted shape. And then use your exhale to return to the big X on the back. And we'll take a couple of breaths here. And again, we might often inhale for this expansive shape. Notice the exhale instead, that unifying force. And then we'll do the same thing to the other side. So start to curl everything into the center as you roll to the right side, pausing in your fetal position, noticing the inhale, feeling expansive. And then use the exhale to spread out and stretch out, staying strong and unified. And we'll be playing with these shapes at our own pace. And so take your time, taking just a few breaths to transition from the X into the fetal position, and then going back through center. And if your space is tight, you can always do several on one side and then shimmy over and do several on the other side if that's easier. And last night my back was feeling really tight, and I played with this for like a long time. And it really helped me release whatever was holding in my body. And so I invite you, if there's anywhere in your body, and it could be emotion, it could be energy, where you feel a block, you feel a tightness, use this exploration to start to melt it out of the body. And we'll take a few more. Try to move smoothly, as if you don't even have any bones. There's no resistance. And that might mean the shape is a little different than the way my positioning looked, and that's even better. And the next time you roll onto the left side, use the top hand to gently press yourself up, and then use the other hand and paw your hands in towards the left leg so you're in your side seated position. Let the left side of the body open into Bharadvajasana, and then paw your hands back down, feed the left arm through, go through your snow angel to the other side, push into the top hand, paw your way up really gently and slowly at first, Bharadvajasana with that nice right side body opening, and then paw your way back down. Feed the right arm through. And we'll do this a few times, and you have the option to paw your way up just like we did, or to start to use momentum to float up a little faster. And that's not for everyone, so please pay attention to what the body's craving. But if you notice that the momentum wants to carry you up effortlessly, you can ride that wave. Otherwise, just keep gently supporting yourself, gradually pushing into one hand at a time. And start to tune into the breath. You don't have to sync it any particular way, but just notice that it's flowing naturally. And when you come up to the side bent Bharadvajasana, I invite you to take a couple of breaths there, letting the body expand and then letting the deep core support you. See if each repetition you can make the movement smoother and more effortless as the body learns the pathway. You can almost feel the connective tissue allowing you to evenly and effortlessly lengthen while still staying very supported. The next time you roll up facing away from me, so Bharadvajasana with the right side lengthening, pause there, and then place the hands down over to the right and bring the knees underneath you for tabletop. If you're following along with our musical accompaniment, you may go to the second track. Feel free to grab a sip of water. And if you have blocks, it's okay if you don't, but if you have 2 blocks, you can set them in front of you. They might be fun to have for our next sequence. All right, so from tabletop, lower your forearms and take a moment to circle the shoulders around the elbows and move really slowly. Let this circling action wake up support in the arms and the shoulder socket, even the back body. Start to notice the subtle movement of the scapula, the shoulder blades, and how they're relating to the spine and the back of the rib cage. Start to circle the other direction. Make sure you're breathing smoothly. And make sure the jaw and neck feel relaxed here. And then start to center the weight on both of your hands and bring the right knee forward of the hip just a little bit and start to slide the left foot back. It's kind of like a pigeon prep pose experience. From the back slide, use your exhale to unweight the left foot and then set it back down, and take a couple of pulses here, and the leg can start to lift as high as you want, but just make sure the pelvis doesn't move, right? We want to keep the pelvis and spine completely neutral. The next time the leg lifts, slowly lift onto the hands, shift the weight into the left hand, and gently touch the top of the left foot back down. Circle the right arm forward, up and back, and it should feel really good, right? Because the right leg was doing a lot of work to stabilize you. So now see if as you circle the arm and spiral to the right knee, you can tune into a sense of spaciousness and lengthening through the whole right side of the body, all the way down outer right hip, IT band. Try pushing down into the right knee a little bit to feel those connections being made. The next time the hand touches down, square the heart down towards the mat, and then start to thread the right hand through. For a modified, thread the needle, bringing the right shoulder down, bringing the right ear down. Bring the left hand on top of the right hand and squeeze the hands together. I know you can't see me, but the squeezing of the hands here should feel stabilizing. Take a couple of breaths to catch your balance. Make sure the neck feels okay here. And then you can stay right here, or if you feel up for it, you can play with pushing down into the right knee and slowly letting the left leg lift. If it feels comfortable, you can even let the left hip start to stack on the right, kind of like an Urdhva Chandrasana shape. And then put everything back down. Bring left hand in front of the face, push into it, returning to your tabletop with the leg out. And bring the left knee in, push the hips back to the heels, and melt the forehead. Notice the sensations in the right hip. If it feels good, you can sway the hips from side to side or enjoy stillness. And we'll go through that exact same sequence on the same side one more time just to let the body get used to that patterning. So as you're ready, float up to table, lower the arms to a forearm table. Take one breath to allow the forearms to support you. And then bring the right knee forward just a little bit and slide the left leg back. Start to take your leg pulses here. And bring a little extra awareness into the right leg. Push down into the right shin and visualize a spaciousness in the right hip. Even though it's working, it doesn't need to be tightening. And the next time the leg lifts, push into the hands, coming up to table, and then very slowly bring the top of the foot back down. I like a flat foot here instead of toes tucked under. It takes more deep core. Slowly start to circle the right arm forward, up and back, letting the whole right side of the body open, and really notice the sensation down into the hip and the outer leg. Move as slowly as possible here. It's going to take more strength, more motor control, and it's not so much about the arm. Try to notice how the circling of the arm rotates the heart and spine, almost as if you don't have a shoulder, just a hand emanating from your heart. That's pretty poetic. I think a lot of you live that way. The next time the arm comes down, start to thread it through. Right shoulder down, right ear down. Left hand comes on top of the right hand. Squeeze the hands together. Allow the shoulders to feed into the core. Get really light in the hips. And then push down into the right knee, top of the right foot, letting the left hip lift and maybe even stack open. Set everything back down so the hips re-square. Left hand in front of the face, come back up to table, and then tuck the right toes under, tuck the left toes under, and lift the right knee, gently push into the hands. I know you can't push too hard when you're on a blanket, and I love that about the blanket. Coming into a staggered down dog, let the hips gently sway from side to side. And then set the right knee down, set the left knee down, and press the hips back to the heels. Melt the forehead. If you want a little bit of movement, you can gently rock the hips from side to side or rock the forehead or just sink into stillness. And we'll do that on the second side. So float up to tabletop. Lower the forearms. Let's add in our shoulder circles in this first round on the second side. Let the hands be soft and make sure you're applying right effort, right? Sometimes when we're stabilizing in the shoulders, we overdo it. And so see if you can do less and still feel bouncy and supportive. And then come to center. Now the left knee walks in from the hip, right leg slides back, and then use your exhale to unweight the right leg. You'll might start to notice some warmth building in the left leg. You can pulse the right leg up and try to notice the pelvis not tipping forward. There's a tendency for the right glute to not do the work and instead the low back to provide the stability here, and we actually don't want that. We want the spine to be neutral, no arching in the low back, and we want the hips to be getting quite warm. It means they're doing their job. The next time the leg lifts, float onto the hands, gently lower the top of the foot, and now shift the weight into the right hand, circle left arm forward, up, letting the heart open away from me, and then the arm circles back and down. Make sure the right hand's nice and soft, right elbow supple, and take a few arm circles, noticing the connection down into the rib cage, down into the obliques, down into the right hip. left hip is what I meant. And then the next time the arm comes down, thread it through, lowering the left shoulder and left ear. Stack right hand on top of left, give it a squeeze. Stay here or play with letting the right leg lift and maybe even open. And only do that if that feels supported and interesting in the hips. I really love it because it helps me feel how my right glute connects into the left glute, and I can feel the two working together to rotate the top leg open. And the next time the foot comes down, place right hand in front of face, gently push into the hand, returning to table, bring the right knee forward and send the hips back to the heels. Notice any warmth in the right side of the body, and just make sure that it's an even warmth, an enjoyable warmth, and not uncomfortable. And let's float back up to table and lower the forearms. Last round here. Left knee sneaks forward, right leg extends back. Use the exhale to lift the right leg. Try to keep the pelvis balanced so it doesn't shift from one side to the other. Completely unmoving. Only the right leg is moving here. Make sure you're breathing. Next time the leg lifts, lift onto the hands, and then gently set the top of the foot down. Shift the weight into the right hand. Big circles with the left arm. You don't want to feel it at all in the shoulder. It's all about the rotation of the heart starting to spiral into that left leg, opening up that left spiral line of the body. And the next time the arm comes down, feed it through, bringing the right shoulder or left shoulder, left ear down. Stack the hands, gentle squeeze with the hands, and then play with floating the back leg. And try to feel how pushing down into the left knee is what initiates the float of the right leg. Bring some awareness to the back of the hips, the back body. Notice how they're supporting you here. And then set the right toes back down. Right hand in front of the face. Push into your tabletop. Tuck both sets of toes under, but keep the legs staggered. Lift the left knee and gently press into the hands, sending the hips up and back. Option for a little sway here. And then set the left knee down. Bring the right knee in to meet it. This time let the knees come nice and wide. Big toes touch hips to heels and glide the hands forward, melting the forehead down. Observe your next couple of breaths. Let the hips relax. They just did a lot. Let the shoulders relax. I guess they did a lot too. And then float back up to tabletop, but this time lift all the way up to a high kneeling position. We're going to wake up the feet a little bit to help us with our balancing. At this point, you're welcome to grab your blocks if you have them. I like the highest height, and step the left foot forward to the outside of the blocks. I'm going to go 3/4 just so it's a little easier to see me. You're welcome to follow along with that. So we'll start with a short lunge. I call it a 90-90 lunge because the legs are at 90-degree angles, letting the hips stack right over the back knee. Take a moment here, bring equal weight into both feet, and gently start to sweep the arms up, push down into the back knee, letting the whole body lengthen. And then if you've got your blocks, you can release the hands to the blocks and keep the left heel anchored, but start to bend into the left knee. We're waking up the left ankle, a really intelligent band of connective tissue called the retinaculum. So give yourself permission to have the knee come past the ankle. As long as there's no pain, that's totally safe and fine. Keeping weight in the right knee is going to help make that even more stable. And then extend the leg. Take some pulses here, bending and extending. Keep the foot anchored to the ground. This might limit how much range of motion you have in the ankle, and that's fine. It's okay if you're only moving a little bit here. That's a good thing to know, because it means that there's probably a little bit of stickiness in the ankle, and the more you can do actions like this, the more you'll start to open that up. If it's comfortable, you can play with, instead of just going bend and extend, making big circles with the knee. Just make sure that the knee feels comfortable with that. We don't want to put too much pressure on the inside or the outside of the knee. It's more about rotating through the ankle and making it interesting for the ankle. Keep the big toe down. Notice the shape of the foot as the big toe stays down and the knee makes different movements. You might see that springy arch activate. Start to circle the opposite direction if you are circling. And then pause for a moment. Let the hips start to sink forward. Give yourself permission to walk the front foot forward and slightly to the left, and then come out of your stretch just 1 inch, right? So wherever you naturally went, come out an inch, and notice how the legs talk to each other when you do that. You might feel a little more buoyancy in the pelvis. From that supported position, with or without the blocks, can lift up into Anjaneyasana. Take a moment to breathe, bring equal weight into both feet, and notice if that helps you feel integrated into the core. And then release the blocks back down. Tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee, and bounce the back leg forward so you're in a wide-legged forward fold, not quite a straddle. Bend the knees, melt the spine over the legs. And then push into the blocks to lengthen the spine forward. Bend the knees, melt the spine, and push into the blocks to lengthen the spine forward. Do this a couple more times on your own, trying to feel how the upper body is connected into the legs and how bending the knees allows the spine to melt. And the next time you melt forward, shift the weight into the left foot. Bring the right knee back down and lift the blocks one last time in Anjaneyasana. If you want to, you can send the front foot forward and let the hips lower forward, but try to connect to that energy of coming out of the stretch an inch so you feel more upward moving energy. And then send the blocks down, bring the left leg in, and we'll go to the other side. But before we do that, I just want you to take in all that information. So flatten the tops of the feet, hips to heels, and just sit for a moment. Absorb. And you don't have to actively process anything that just happened. Instead, try to be as empty as possible. Just connect to the breath. And let that exhale bring the visualization of the heart center glowing brighter and brighter the longer the exhale lasts. And now we do the second side. So float up to kneeling. Now the right foot steps forward. We start at our short 90-90 lunge. Let the tailbone get heavy. Let the front of the pelvis lift ever so slightly. And then bring the hands down to the blocks and keep weight in the back knee and the front heel as you bend a little more deeply into the front knee. And then extend and bend. Make any adjustments to the placement of the front leg. It might feel nice to walk it forward a little bit or to the right a little bit. And remember, you want to keep the big toe anchored, which means the limiting factor here is probably the ankle flexibility, right? And that's okay. And we're trying to explore how far forward the knee can come and then how much the leg can straighten so that the ankle is stretching in both directions. And start to draw your circles with your knee, right? And this should not be putting pressure in the knee, but instead making the ankle joint more adaptable, right? So if you're feeling this in your ankle, walk the foot in closer to the body imagine there's a quarter underneath the heel, and you're just circling the weight around the rim of that quarter. So it's really more about the weight shifting in the foot and ankle and not so much in the knee. And then circle the opposite way and gaze at the foot. Start to notice how the different angles of the ankle affect the muscles in the foot. Notice if there's an angle where it's hard to keep the big toe anchored. The big toe is the secret to great balance, so we hone in on it here. And then allow the knee to stack over the ankle. Press down equally into front foot, back knee. Let the whole body open. You can take your blocks with you if you've got them. Take a couple of breaths at in Anjaneyasana, and then let the front knee start to bend a little bit more. You can walk the foot forward if you want to, but it is totally safe for the knee to come past the ankle as long as there's no pressure in the knee as you do that. And then come out just an inch and notice how that transforms the experience. And less is more. If you came way out of it, really try to just come out of an inch, because that takes way more strength. And then set the blocks back down, tuck back toes, lift back knees, bring the back foot forward into a wide-legged forward fold, somewhere between Uttanasana and Prasarita Padottanasana. Bend the knees, drape the spine over the thighs. Keep the weight in the heels, and notice how that awakens the hamstrings and the back of the body a little bit more. And then bend into one knee at a time, letting the hips sway. Press into the blocks so the spine can get a little bit longer. Press into the feet too. Similar idea, just getting lighter through the body. And then place your blocks over to the left so they're at the top of the mat, and come up to standing. Grab a drink of water. And if you're following along with our music today, you can go to the next track. And after all that foot and leg and hip and core stuff, my body wants to go for a little walk. So maybe you do too. Let's go for a little walk around our space. Let all your awareness drop down into your feet. And just notice the sensation of your feet connecting with the earth, and that little shift of weight, the springing as you press into the back toe, big toe, swing of the leg. Let the arms swing really freely, like it's like sunny day, first day of spring, you're walking in the park, you know, that arm swing. Yes, great. And then get even springier, like you're on TV walking through the park. You don't want to feel any compression in the joints, so if at any point the springiness isn't feeling light, try a new way of being springy. As I've been cueing, try to feel the heels and the back line of the body. Almost imagine that structure, that support from behind, helping you stand up tall effortlessly. And then you can make your way back to your mat, facing your blocks, so towards the left-hand side, if we all are on the same page. And start to paw out the feet underneath the hips for Tadasana. Relax the arms down, anchor the big toes. Just start to rock forward. Notice how the toes grew up a little bit. Rock back, keeping the big toe down. You don't want to fall backward, but notice that back line of the body catching you, and just take a couple of those rocks. And then try to bring equal weight into the heel and into the balls of the feet. Pause there and gently start to bend the knees, crease the hips, reaching the hips back into chair pose, and circle the arms forward and up. We'll take a couple of pulses like that. Straighten legs, drop arms, and then reach hips back as the arms reach forward. Repeat on your own. I like to exhale as my hips come back and try to feel how the hips reaching back opposes the reaching forward and up of the arms. Like the two working together helps you go deeper in a supportive way. You guys look so great here. And the next time the hips come down, swing the arms back so they're in line with the spine. Shift the weight into the right heel, anchor the right big toe, and without moving the hips or the spine, as we've been practicing, play with gliding the left foot back. And so now the left leg is roughly in line with the pelvis and the spine. With an exhale, without moving your hips at all, start to lift the left leg behind you, just like we practiced from all fours. Take a few pulses here. Notice if the right knee starts to drop in or the right arch starts to collapse, and see if you can maintain integrity in the right leg. Just little pulses. Even though the left glute is lifting the left leg, you're probably feeling a lot of stabilization happening in the right leg. That's awesome. The next time the left toes come down, tuck the left toes under. Bring a little bit of weight back into the left toes just to offer relief into the right leg. And then start to circle right arm forward, up, and back. So we're actually doing the exact same sequence that we did from all fours. And now we're doing it standing. So start to notice how that spiral opens up the right side of the body. Notice specifically the sensations down into the hip and the outer leg, and keep the right big toe down. The next time the arm circles down and forward, let the body stay squared towards the short edge of the mat. Walk the back foot in enough that you can bring the back heel down, and then shift the weight into the back foot, hovering the right knee for one-legged Tadasana. Anchor the left big toe and try to be as light as possible here. Take a breath. And then gently step the right foot forward. Nice short stance here. Let the feet be wide, like you're on railroad tracks. Soften the front knee, keep the weight in the back leg as you melt forward, reaching the hands towards the block. This shouldn't feel like a deep stretch, so if that's too much, the hands can come towards a wall instead if you want to step off to the side. And then gently sway the hips from side to side, melting out any tension from that right leg. Keep paying attention to the anchoring big toe. And notice as the hips sway how the sensations change across the back of the legs, into the different hamstrings, and then across the back body into the different muscles of the rector spinae. Bend the front knee, step the back foot forward into your wide leg forward fold, and I just slightly wider than the hips. Bend the knees generously, melt the spine forward. And then heel toe the feet just a little bit wider, so like mat's width. Bend into one knee. So let's bend into the left knee. Let the hips sway to the left and let the body sway to the right. And then bend into the right knee. Opposite thing happens. Left leg straightens, body sways to the left. It starts in the legs, so you bend one knee, and as you kick into the opposite foot, let the body naturally sway. And then come to center, anchor the big toe, send the weight into the heels. You can either roll up one vertebra at a time, as long as that's pain-free, or you can come up in your favorite way that feels best for your spine. We'll all meet in Tadasana. And take a moment to absorb the sequence on the first side. Notice any sense of opening in the right side of the body. And we'll repeat. So starting with our chair pose. Relax the arms down, anchor big toes, weight in heels. Use your exhale to crease at knees and hips, reaching the hips back as the arms reach forward. And then inhaling back up. In the second round, if you want to come onto tippy toes and reach the arms behind you for a little extension through the spine, you're welcome to. Let's take a few pulses and move extra slow. Roseanne, think about sending your hips back and keep the weight in the heels. Just make sure that feels okay on your knees. Nice, yeah, Devi, it looks so smooth and supported. Beautiful, Geeta. Dana, try going a little slower on those tippy toes. Yeah, there it is. And the next time you're in chair pose, pause there. Let the arms sweep back kind of dramatically. I like that part. Yeah, you can allow the spine to lengthen. And then shift the weight into the left foot, especially that left heel. Keep the hips and spine as they are. Glide the right foot back. Use an exhale to lift the back leg and make sure the pelvis doesn't tip forward at all as you do this. You can even place the hand on the pelvis if you're like, I don't know what my pelvis is doing. Let your hands help you learn. And then also pay attention to the left leg, and you want to make sure the left big toe staying anchored and the knee is tracking nice and wide towards the pinky side of the foot. You don't want it to knock in. You don't want the arch to collapse. Less is more. Maybe the back leg doesn't even lift, but you feel really strong in the front leg. That's awesome. And the next time, the toes lower, tuck them under. Bring a little bit of weight into the right foot, but we're just giving the left leg some relief. Circle left arm forward, up and back, letting the rib cage spiral, letting the outside of the left leg lengthen. Keep the big toe anchored. Make sure you're breathing. And then the next time the body starts to square forward, shift the weight forward enough that you can plant the back foot and pop up onto the right foot, single leg balance, giving that front leg a little break. Well, sort of. See how relaxed you can be here. And think about lifting through the left heel so that the back of the left leg does the work and the hip flexor can relax. And then gently step the left foot forward towards the outside of the block, so nice and wide. Bend the front knee, but keep weight in the back foot as you drip the spine over the leg, bringing the hands to the blocks. Bend the knees as deeply as you need to make this very relaxing and easy. You don't want it to feel like a big stretch. And then gently sway the hips, massaging out through the hamstrings and the back body. Check in with the neck and make sure you're not just dropping the head, but rather allowing the head to be an extension of the spine. That looks so nice. And then bend both knees and take some bounces in the legs so the hips are really bouncy here. And when you feel ready, bounce the right leg forward to meet the left about hip mat's width. Heel toe the feet wider if you need to. And then bend into one knee at a time, swaying the hips. If you want to get a little more dramatic in the second round, as the left knee bends and the hips sway to the left, you can walk the blocks over to the right to increase the side bend through the left side of the body. And then shift the weight forward and back in the feet to massage forward and back on the right adductors. That's the inner leg line. Just make sure the right hip socket feels okay here. You don't want to compress. We're trying to lengthen everything out. And then if you tried that, go to the other side. So right knee bends, left leg straightens, blocks walk the other way. Make sure you're breathing. And then walk the blocks to center. Bend generously in the knees. Anchor the big toes and either roll up one vertebra at a time or come up the way that is safest for you. Oh, nice. Yeah, you can add an arm circle. That was nice, Geeta. Reach the arms up and let them circle, open, and then drip towards the earth. Okay, so one more round, we'll add on to it, and I just want to demo something. So 2 options. You can stand in Tadasana if the body's wanting a break, or you can stand on your tippy toes if your body's not wanting a break. So we'll be adding on to that sequence. We'll go from the leg lift to the spiral, and then can you remember what came next when we were on our knees? We thread the needle, and we placed our hands together, kind of like baby shark, do 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 do. And so from here, all the awareness is in the leg anchoring, and then pushing down into that bottom foot to let the top hip lift, and then maybe open. I can't figure out what's the best direction to show you this. So we go from the spiral, thread the needle, stack the hands. You might be here, just exploring stabilizing from the top down. And then if you do feel balanced, the leg can lift and maybe can stack. And we'll let the leg come down and shift back into that single leg balance that we practiced before. So I'll talk you through it, but I wanted you to see it so you knew what was about to happen. Add anything on, take anything away. Most important thing is to breathe and enjoy. So from Tadasana, relax the arms down. We'll start with our chair pose. Take a couple of pulses, enjoying having 2 feet on the ground. And notice how actually this can be quite easy, right? You have twice as much support as a lot of the movements we did today. The next time the hips come back, shift the weight into the right foot, sweep the arms back, and sweep the left leg back. Take one leg lift here, keep the leg lifted, and then set the toes down and spiral the right arm forward, up and open, taking that nice spacious twist. As the arm starts to circle down, prepare to go in the opposite direction. Find a drishti, a steady gaze point, anchor the right big toe, keep the knee wide so the knee wants to point towards the pinky. That's going to turn on the chain of muscles that you need to support yourself here. Thread the right arm through so it's reaching towards the side wall. Plant left hand on top of right hand. Stay here or start to push into the bottom big toe, letting the hips fly, maybe even stacking them. Make sure you're breathing. And then whenever you're ready, top foot lowers, anchors, shift the weight back, single leg balance. Remember, you're lifting through the heel so the hip flexor can relax. And actually, I really want that hip flexor to relax, so let's add on a dancer pose. Kick the right leg behind you, grab onto the ankle, and just relax the hip. We don't need to do anything too dramatic here. Unless the body's craving it, then be dramatic. And we'll do that one more time. Release the right foot, swing it forward, plant it down. Let's take one moment to melt forward into our Parsvottanasana with blocks. Sway the hips. And then spring the back leg forward. Roll up. And pulse into your chair pose. Shift the weight into the other leg. Sweep the arms back. Sweep the leg back. And start to lift the back leg. Set the back foot down. Shift the weight. Circle left arm forward. Up and back. Nice and easy. A spiral through the whole body, not just one part. And then as the arm circles down and forward, imagine threading it through right arm and right hip, reaching it towards me. Stack right hand on top of left. Anchor the right big toe. Let the knee point towards the pinky side, which is going to make it harder to keep the big toe down. That's to our favor. Squeeze the hands together and push down into the bottom foot to slowly lower the top foot. Make sure you're breathing. Find your drishti. And then release the back foot down, squaring the hips down. Shift the weight into your single leg balance. And then allow the left knee to drop. Grab the outside of the left ankle and just pause for a moment, relaxing the hips. So more like a runner's stretch than a dancer. And then relax the foot down. Pause for a moment in Tadasana. And I don't want to teach the whole sequence all the way through, but I want to give you the opportunity to play with Urdhva Chandrasana one more time on each side. If there's something different than your body's craving, like maybe you really want to play in Dancer or you want to take extra time in Parsvottanasana, please do that. Otherwise, I'll talk you through Urdhva Chandrasana while you're nice and warmed up for it. So from your chair pose, shift the weight, release the arms down, slide the left leg back. Take your spiral to the right, and then as you unspiral, feed the arm through, stack the hands, squeeze them together, and now slowly exhale, push into the bottom foot, letting the top foot float. The more you push into the bottom big toe, the more you'll feel like you can stack the hips, but it doesn't matter how far you go. Make sure you're breathing. Oh, you guys look amazing. Stay there as long as you want or come out whenever you want. So fun, cool. Whenever you're ready, the back toes can lower. If you're craving any of the counter poses that we did, you're welcome to add them in or just step forward and absorb. Hands at heart is kind of nice for absorption. And we'll do the second side. So shift the weight. Oh, not yet. Release the arms down. Take your chair. Now shift the weight, swing the arms back. Glide the right foot back. Let the right leg lift and then set it down. Shift the weight and spiral to the left. And here's the moment. As you unspiral, feed the arm through, stack the hands. Imagine this is like prayer position. You're just praying in another direction. And then slowly start to anchor the foot and let that connection help you fly. Find your drishti, find your breath, be patient, be compassionate. You can always come out and try again. Nice, Gita. Wow, cool. Stay here as long as you want. Beautiful, Dana. Nice, Roseanne. And then whenever you're ready, you can come into the counter pose. Yes, Yadevi, I love it. You can add anything on, subtract. Nice, Jaya. Oh, Roseanne's adding in some shaking. So if anyone wants to add some bouncing, just letting everything drip off of the body, you're welcome to. And then grab a sip of water. If you are following along with the music, please go to the next track. And grab your blocks, place them to the long edge of the mat. We'll do one more version of our adductor stretch. And for this one, I invite you to step the feet out a little wider. Because of the blanket, you might notice that it's harder to be in a straddle, and that's great. That means your adductors are firing to support you. From here, soften the knees, keep some weight in the heels, and allow the spine to melt forward. Bring the hands to the blocks, and start to bend the right knee. Keep the outer edge of the left foot sealed down. Big toe anchored, and notice how the arch lifts as you do that. And gently rock forward and back on the heel to the ball of the foot, and notice how that changes where you feel it on the inner thigh, inner calf. Make sure the knee feels supported. And then if you want a little bit more here, start to walk the blocks over to the left foot. Any amount. And actually, I said left foot, but you also want them away from you, so there's a stretch, a sense of really lengthening through the spine, especially on the right side. Try to keep equal weight in both feet as you explore this. So remember, you're bending that right knee. Option to shift the weight, option to wag the tail a little bit. Make sure you're breathing. And then come back to center, and we'll try the other way. So from center now, the left knee bends. Bring your awareness to the right foot. Keep that pinky side of the right foot anchored, right big toe anchored, and then start to shift the weight forward and back. And just notice what that changes in the sensation in the legs, in the hips, maybe even in the spine. You might have more awareness of the back of the body as the weight shifts back, and perhaps more in the front as the weight shifts forward. And then option to walk the blocks over to the right, letting the whole left side of the body lengthen. Think of it almost like a down dog sensation where the hips are reaching back of the hands. Nice. Yeah, that little bit of tractioning, bending the left knee a little bit more, and then option to sway the hips or rock the weight or just breathe. And then walk the blocks back to center. Heel toe the feet in so they're just wider than the hips, and slowly start to lower the hips all the way to the ground. Bring the soles of the feet together. Allow the knees to open off to the side, and keep the heels a generous distance away from the body so that this is nice and relaxed. Bring the hands to the outside of the thighs and gently squeeze hands and thighs together, just noticing the sensation of the outside of the leg turning on, and see if you can gently hollow the body and sit up a little taller as you do that. And then swap so the hands are in the inside, and try the same thing. So gently squeezing hands and legs together, and that's really cute. Casey Jones crawling through your arms. That's a dog, in case you were wondering. And notice the feet here. See if you can keep the big toe and the ball of each foot connected. That's going to help strengthen the deep front line of the body. You might even notice you can sit up a little taller when you do that. And then kick the legs out to a comfortable V, so not your widest V, just wherever they naturally go. See if you can comfortably sit upright here, or sometimes there's a tendency for this to happen. And so if that's happening, just walk the hands behind you, tent the fingertips, lean back, and see if you can lengthen the spine. Take a couple of breaths. If the body is craving coming forward, you're welcome to play with your blocks a little bit here, walking them forward. Just make sure the movement is coming from the pelvis tipping, and the spine is actually quite neutral, right? So it's really happening as the weight shifts in the sits bones, and it's not a rounding in the spine if you are coming forward. If you're forward, I invite you to walk from side to side. It kind of keeps things loose. Sometimes we go too far and we get tight, rigid, stagnant. So this just keeps things flowing. Knees can be soft. If you're in the back space, you can do the same thing with bent elbows, just playing with swaying from side to side. As you sway away from the leg, try reaching through that heel to keep the body integrated. And then pause, either in stillness where you are or upright in a more neutral position. You can connect with your breath flow. And pause the music. Start to make your way into Shavasana. You can set up your favorite Shavasana props. Because you do have these blocks potentially They could be a nice support underneath the backs of the knees, just so you have that nice knee bent experience. If you're using the blocks behind the knees, just make sure there's not a sense of the thigh bone lifting and putting pressure on the hip socket. So make any adjustments so it feels very relaxing. For me, the blocks are at the second highest height and centered with my kneecap, just to prevent pressure in the hips. And then I want to come back to that visual we used a couple of times in class of a sun at the heart. And visualize that sun growing brighter and brighter as you exhale. And let the inhale be free and natural. And then visualize that radiance growing as you exhale. And just notice how that lets you be with the exhale in a different way. And you can close the eyes if that feels comfortable and make any little wiggles and changes with the body so the joints feel very spacious. And if it feels right for you, working with the breath and the visualization in Shavasana may help you receive more benefits as you stay conscious in this resting pose. And so with that, I will let you absorb your practice. Observe your natural free breath. And notice what it feels like to be in a relaxed state, physically and mentally. And keep your connection and your attention in that space of noticing. It's almost like whoever can notice those things is expanded beyond them, your inner self, your true self. And imagine that fullness of your inner self floating up to seated and leaving anything contracted behind, any physical tension, any mental worries. Just leave that and let your highest self come to seated. Today is the first day of Navaratri. We only have 5 minutes, so I'm not going to say too much about it. Besides, it's an awesome, transformative holiday that celebrates the goddess, and you're all goddesses. Doesn't matter what gender you are, we all have goddess energy. And so we'll be chanting Durga mantra today, and then next week we'll still be celebrating, and we'll get to do another mantra together then. This mantra has a lot of syllables. It's Om, Hreem, Shreem, Doom, Durgaye Namaha. And it's a really powerful mantra that can set you free of any of those tensions and limitations that keep you from experiencing your highest self at all times. Happy Navaratri, everybody. Thanks for practicing. Namaste.